Hey, I'm Moran for Walnut Creek TV, and today we're going to meet the new Chief of Police. After an extensive search and a lot of community feedback, Jamie Knox has been appointed Walnut Creek's new Chief of Police. Welcome, Chief Knox.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, how has it been so far?
Busy. There's an expression, drinking from a fire hose, so I've really been doing that for the last 7 weeks. You know, it's different when you take over an agency. I've gone to a new agency a few times in my career, so there's some parts of it that's familiar, but of course it's a new city for me, so I have a lot to learn.
So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get interested in law enforcement?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I noticed a friend of mine had a Police Explorer uniform on, and I wasn't familiar with the program, so he introduced me to the program in the city that I grew up in, Roseville, California, which is in Placer County. And I joined the program, and I just got hooked with volunteering, and the police department became, a second family to me. And I was going to go to art college right out of high school, and I completely changed and decided to go into police work.
So you're a Northern California guy, right? I guess that's Placer County. You can consider that. Walnut Creek was probably something that you maybe had on your bucket list, or just tell me, how did Walnut Creek happen to you, and you're sitting in this chair talking to me?
Yeah. So I started my career in Roseville. I was a 911 police dispatcher, and then I took a job as a police officer with the city of Rockland. I was there for close to 20 years, and I found myself in Moran County at the city of Novato, where I took a promotion to be a captain, and then eventually wound up in San Leandro, and then now I'm here. So Walnut Creek, there was a dance club that me and some friends would come to here, and that's what put Walnut Creek on the map. Every time I would drive through the city, I would always recognize how similar it was to the cities that I grew up in, Roseville and Rockland. A lot of great shopping, good dining, very much a bedroom community, but also a great place to raise a family. So it's really always been on my radar. If you asked me 10 years ago, or would you ever find yourself in Walnut Creek, I just wouldn't see the connection or how I would get there. But if you look at how I moved around, winding up in the East Bay at San Leandro, when the opportunity presented itself, it was just a perfect fit.
Well, glad to have you. What do you see are some of the challenges as you get into the job here and kind of get the lay of the land?
Yeah, so there's two challenges. I look at policing in general, from the 30,000 foot level. As a country and as a system of justice and law enforcement, policing has really changed over the last couple of decades. So we have to work through those challenges where society is really looking at us with a much more critical eye, which is a good thing, so that we can look at ourselves as an entity of governance and what the best way to really form or reimagine, if you will, what the justice system is going to look like in this country over the next several decades. From a local standpoint, COVID hit this city hard, just like it hit a lot of different cities. We had some civil unrest here. We've had some significant police incidents that one ended in a tragedy, which really affected this community deeply, and it affected this police department deeply. Something I'm familiar with, having gone through something similar in San Leandro. So that's a challenge too. We're really looking at how we can build bridges with our community, and mend some of the relationships that may have been tarnished over not just what's happened in the Bay Area when it comes to policing, because unfortunately when people see the badge, when they see the uniform, they do paint us with a broad brush, and we have to accept that partially because we are part of a greater system of public safety, of policing in America. But at the same time, we don't want to be judged by our worst moment, and we don't want to be judged by what somebody does 2,000 miles away. We want to make our own story here in Walnut Creek.
On that topic, what is your approach, would you say, to connecting with the community? Because as you just said, there has been some acrimony, and that's not just in Walnut Creek, but everywhere. But in terms of just kind of getting back out there, I guess, and connecting with the community, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Walnut Creek is unique because there is some diversity here in different ways. So we have a good portion of the community is an aging community. at first glance you might think, well, maybe they're not in tune with technology, maybe they're not using social media, but a lot of them are, surprisingly so. So I try to look at connecting with the community from many different angles. So we can use social media, but we have Instagram, which really is targeted toward a younger audience. Twitter is a completely different audience. And then Facebook is usually middle-aged, people our age who sort of grew up on social media over the last 10 years and have kind of held on to those platforms. We do have over 20,000 followers on our Facebook page, which is huge for an agency and a community this size. That's actually pretty significant. It's a good following. So we try to message across all of the different platforms. Nextdoor is a great platform, and the engagement is different on each platform. So Nextdoor, we can post community news briefs, we can do press releases there, but we can also give and receive information about public safety tips, where if there's traffic complaints or if there are concerns in this neighborhood versus the other neighborhood. So it's been a great tool for us to use to connect with the community. But I'm also a fan of doing things like town hall meetings, and we had our Meet with the Chief event at the Leisure Center. COVID made it tough to do a lot of in-person meetings, but there's something that you miss with social media. You miss that dialogue, that interaction, which I sort of grew up on that sort of community policing style. So that's definitely on my radar, something that I want to bring back here.
Well, and as the world opens up, knock on wood, someday, yes, I'm sure that you'll take advantage of that.
Yes, for sure, we will.
So Chief, I live in Walnut Creek. I have been sitting in my house not talking to anybody for a year and a half. If people like me are interested in kind of getting out, connecting with the police department, how do we do that?
Yeah. So first, follow us on social media, sign up for Nixle alerts. If you're in a neighborhood that has a Nextdoor group, join Nextdoor. We do a lot of events. Pre-COVID, we were doing things like Coffee with a Cop, and we were able to do National Night Out this past August because it was outdoors, but we do want to bring some of those programs back, but you have to follow us so that you know when those events are happening. We do a pretty good job of advertising them well in advance. But there's other ways too. If you're out shopping downtown and you see a police officer on the street, say hi. They really like that. And COVID made it hard with the whole downtown area. A lot of the restaurants had sort of shut down, and so we had to sort of transition our policing model and get back into the neighborhoods, and we weren't really having a big downtown presence. So we're changing that a little bit. So you'll see some more foot patrols, and that's an easier way to have those interactions. I mean, in a perfect world, if I could have officers walking a foot beat, just about in every corner of Walnut Creek, I would. But because of its size and geography, we really rely on the cars and the motorcycles to get to places quickly, which there is that separation. But we do encourage our officers to stop at coffee shops and take the time to walk through a park and have conversations with the public.
Yeah. My 5-year-old son loves it when he gets to speak with police officers. He just looks up at them like this.
Well, officers have always been role models for young people, and I'm here to recruit as many people as I can, and if I can make a connection with someone who's 5, and in 15 or 20 years they remember that connection and maybe think, hey, I could have a career in law enforcement, then that's what we want.
Chief, you've been in the job since the summer. I assume you've kind of taken the 30,000-foot view. Can you talk to me about some of your priorities?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of turnover in the police department, especially at our management ranks. So my first few weeks here, I was focused on, one, getting to know our staff members and getting to know their story, learning the culture here, but also building my new leadership team. So in the past several weeks, I've made 6 promotions. So we have a new captain, we have 3 new lieutenants, and 2 sergeants, and we have some more promotions on the way. But this is going to be the new Walnut Creek Police Department leadership team that's going to help me in my role be successful here.
What else? Besides the leadership team, priorities?
Well, community policing is very important to me, especially in a community like this where we do want to be accessible to the public, and we do want to pay attention to the small things, the quality of life issues. At the same time, when the country is having a greater conversation about reimagining policing, we have to figure out what that's going to mean in Walnut Creek. So another priority is to sort of assess the culture and expectations of this community and try to meet those expectations. And we're also looking at our police department as far as functionality goes and how we are providing our services to the community. So we'll be doing a lot of auditing, a lot of analysis. I'm a big data guy, so I believe in things like evidence-based policing. You know, what's the return on investment? I mean, are the taxpayers getting their money's worth when it comes to policing, and how can we provide more efficient services to, you know, we are a lean operation here with the downtown population swelling not only at night but in the day as well, and we have all of these other ancillary things that we have to really pay attention to, like traffic, policing in the schools. We have Broadway Plaza, some high shopping areas, so it's a lot to sort of take into account. But I'm a big believer in best practice, so I have a background in law enforcement accreditation, so I'll be bringing some of those tools with me when I look at this police department and make some priorities and set some goals for the future.
This is a question for Walnut Creek, but also in general, and I'm just curious, today versus the day that you started, how has policing changed?
So it's changed a lot. I think probably the biggest change in policing, well, there's been two. One is technology. So we've really relied on technology to police differently, to police better. You know, when I first started, we didn't have tasers, we didn't have body cameras, we didn't have the computer technology. That cell phones were very big brick phones that the text messages didn't exist or anything like that. So we've really come a long way as far as technology, and I think it's helped us in many ways. It's helped us be more efficient, and it's also helped us reach more people and be more accessible to other people through things like social media. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is just community expectations. I think social media and the ubiquitous nature of cell phone video has really sort of cast a wide light on what policing is in this country, and it is different from state to state, from community to community, but it has sparked a broader conversation about, okay, what do we want policing to be in America over the next couple of decades? So I look at when I first started versus what we do now, and we're really focused on the manner in which we police. The fundamentals of policing never change. You know, we're still committed to creating and promoting a safe environment for people to live, work, and play, and for bringing offenders to justice and protecting the innocent. But at the end of the day, it's the manner in which we provide those services that we are really sort of paying attention to in changing as we evolve as human beings.
So you mentioned earlier, Chief, that police officers were human beings. And so I want to ask you about Jamie Knox, the human being. Your biography says that you're a bit of a Renaissance man. You are handy with a grill. But I want to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to ask you, what is your number one cop movie that you've got at home in your library?
So I have a lot of favorite cop movies. You know, I mentioned RoboCop during my swearing-in ceremony, but the year I started in law enforcement was 1995, and the movie Heat came out with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. And I think that movie really explores the humanity of not only policing, but also the criminal. And so we get to see the personal lives of both of these main characters and how they come to this crossroads. But I was struck by it's a long movie, it's well over 2 hours, and I even think that there's a director's cut. But we get a glimpse into the personal life of all of these characters, and really how what they do has a great effect on not only their family, but society and the other person. So it's, in a strange way, there was this symbiotic relationship between the two main characters, and I've always liked that movie.
Plus De Niro and Pacino, right?
Yeah, the scene in the coffee shop is an iconic scene, and if I remember correctly, I think a lot of that was unscripted, and it was so organic and real, and everybody talks about that scene. It was certainly one of my favorite scenes. And you know, of course, there's action and things like that, and you know, the North Hollywood shootout happened shortly after that movie came out, so everybody was really talking about that movie. So you know, it did have the violent aspect of it, but you know, sometimes policing is not always pretty, and sometimes, you know, there's a violence involved that, you know, quite frankly, that police officers have to see every day. The average person might experience 1 or 2 critical incidents in their lifetime, where a police officer might experience about 800. So I think, you know, movies like that still are relevant today because they really expose everything related to law enforcement.
That's a good point. I'll have to rewatch it now. Chief Knox, thank you very much for your time. Looking forward to seeing you out there.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.